and welcome to episode 1 of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. I am recording live on SimGamer TV. I don't have any saved games. I've cleared them all, so we're going to start a new one. Call it Let's Play. It's going to be career mode. We've got our flag set, and I'll go through the difficulty options that I've established for this. We turned off missing crews respawn, so if we lose a crew member, they're not going to come back. We turned off the option for no entry purchase required on research, which means when we research new equipment, we have to spend the money to buy access to that equipment. We also increased the science funds and reputation rewards, as well as the matching penalties for our failures, and increased the decline penalty from 1 to 2, which means that I'm strongly encouraged to take the contracts that I'm given. So with that in mind, we'll go ahead and accept that and start our brand new career in Kerbal Space Program 1.1. Welcome to the Space Center. Nice to meet you. I am Gene Kerman, Flight Director and your guide for this quick introduction. This is the Space Center. From here, you can manage all aspects of the space program. Feel free to have a look around. Right-click over the Space Center facilities to view more about them, and left-click when you are ready to head inside. If you need more information, check out the training section on the main menu. Thanks, I've got it. We can go ahead. I'm sweating, it's so hot in here. We can go ahead and continue on. Now, the only facilities I like in 1.1, they added this as well, which gives you actually a list of all the buildings. So one thing we're going to do right away is we're going to go to our flagpole and set our company flag to SimGamer TV. Yay! It's all done. So when we actually land and do stuff, it'll be there. All right, my microphone. That's good enough. So there's a lot of buildings that we have here that we actually don't really need to worry about. Most of these, we're going to be using 3 buildings essentially to start off with. Mission Control, the Vehicle Assembly Building, and the Launch Pad. Not timer, I'm sorry, stopwatch. Yeah, get a stopwatch going here so I can time this episode. Oof. So, Mission Control, that's this building here, or this icon, is the place where we get our missions to begin our fantabulous Kerbal space career. And we have some missions that are available for us to pick up. Pardon me, allergies. So, we can gather scientific data from Kerbin. It says, give us a quick crew report before launching. It's fine if any of the lights on the control panel are flashing, just give it a swift kick. And our goal is, the objective is to recover or transmit any science experiment data from Kerbin to achieve this goal. So we'll go ahead and take that mission. We can only take 2 missions to begin with. And our other mission will be to launch our first vessel. I'll leave you guys to read this. Well, I'll read one of them just because it's hilarious. The chief bookkeeper at Kerbin World First Record Keeping Society felt definitely unsure about whether it seemed clearly unconfirmed that we allegedly needed to find something to do. It is true, though, that the way we would have often see a truly not that bad accident is how we got into that situation in the first place. In any case, as you've surely deducted already from all of this, this is where you come in. We'd like to officially start off the space program with a bang, a very controlled bang, preferably. Launch your first vessel off the launch pad or the runway to achieve this goal. So we're going to go ahead and accept that contract as well. And we are on our way. Now, step 2 to kicking off a new Kerbal Space Program career. The Vehicle Assembly Building. And my visor is falling down on my face. Stay up there. Hello, I'm Werner von Kerman, Chief Rocketry Officer. This is the Vehicle Assembly Building. Here is where we build spacecraft and later roll them out to the launch pad for flight. Pretty impressive, isn't it? On your left, you'll find components to construct your own spacecraft. Select a starting point, and then attach others onto it to build a ship. You can then have a look around with right mouse button or the arrow keys. That's it, really. It's not as if it were it is rocket science. Anyhow, if you need more in-depth explanation on how to build, have a look at the training sections in the main menu. So, I'm not going to be doing any of those trainings, obviously. I've played this game before. I know sort of what I'm doing. Probably. So here it is, the first command craft, and we're going to give this a untitled spacecraft of Splat. A rocket that goes up. Hopefully, it will come back down. Ideally, in one piece. Now, Splat needs some things to make it go up. It needs an engine, which we will provide with the RT5 Flea solid rocket booster. I am going to do a little advanced stuff here since I get all the parts on that I want. And we will attach some basic fins. So I'm going to use my mouse wheel to scroll down, shift mouse to zoom in so I can get this nice and close. And tap the X key a couple of times to change my symmetry. And we are placing on some basic fins that will add a little bit of stability as we fly this thing up. We're going to add a Mark 16 parachute, which should add a rather large amount of survivability when we come back down. And handily enough, we have these mystery goo containment units, which allow us to do some science. So we're going to do 3 of those, since we're going to have a fair bit of science to grab on our way up. Now, our first launch really could be as simple as stick a command pod on the launch pad and get a crew report and do nothing else and come back. But that's not the way I play my careers. I go big. Sometimes I fail miserably in hilarious ways. But that's half the fun. So, I feel like this music is a little bit loud. You need to be about like that. Okay. Splat is ready to launch. And in the comments, if you guys want to, if you're watching, definitely give me suggestions for names of rockets. One thing I did here that you may not have noticed, this is the way staging begins when you make your very first rocket. When you tap the space bar, everything in the next stage is going to automatically activate. And that doesn't do us any good to both activate the rocket and the parachute at the same time. That activates both the up and the down at the same time. That doesn't help us a lot. So we're going to move this rocket down here so it goes up by itself and then have the parachute. Now, another thing I'm going to adjust on this one is that if you right-click on most of these parts, you have lots of options. Well, the RT5 Flea solid rocket booster has a thrust limiter. 100% thrust is a ton of thrust for this little rocket. So we're going to go ahead and just tune that way down to like 25% and see how that goes. Worst case scenario is we don't go anywhere and we turn the thrust up a little bit. With all that said, I think we are ready to get ourselves into space. Well, at least off the ground. So we have Jebediah Kerman as the acting pilot here in our new first spacecraft. Various controls all around. Now, we can conduct some science. And I will, in a little bit, if you haven't played Kerbal Space Program already, you'll understand why we want science in just a little bit. So, I'm going to right-click on one of my scientific parts. This is the Mystery Goo Containment Unit, and observe the Mystery Goo.
The goo seems to be not doing much right now.
A Mystery Goo observation from the launch pad. We'll go ahead and keep that experiment. Now we can do some other things. We can get a crew report while we're here. Crew report from the launch pad.
You record the crew's assessment of the situation.
And since we're landed, we can have our guy step out and hang precariously on the ladder. Grab an EVA report, and he says,
this is a most precarious situation.
As an EVA report while flying over Kerbal shores. And then we will go ahead and do a little bit of advanced science manipulation. Right-click on the pad, or right-click on the command module, and take all the data that we have inside. That's the crew report that we did earlier. Now when we board, we're going to store that crew report in a different compartment. It's in the storage compartment as opposed to the active experiments compartment, which means we could conceivably take another crew report. However, this one's not going to do us any good, so we'll reset that. With all the pre-flight testing ready to go, we are ready to attempt to go up. Go ahead and quick save there. And in 3, 2, 1, up we go! 25% thrust seems to be just right. We're going to go ahead and pilot the craft over this way a little bit so it doesn't come straight back down on the launch pad. And you notice the fins are offering plenty of stability. Now that we're going up and we seem to be rather stable, we'll go ahead and observe our mystery goo once again. And this is the goo, jiggles and wobbles as the craft flies. As we observe the mystery goo while flying a Kerbal, go ahead and keep that experiment. We will get another crew report, and a crew report while flying over Kerbal shores reads,
"The shores look inviting, and you watch the waves roll onto the coast."
All of these things are worth science, which we will be spending later. And thus concludes the up portion of our first flight. Now begins the next phase, going down. And with any luck, going down safely. We're going to be heading towards the water, so I don't want to gain too much speed. Our parachute is free and clear. Tap the spacebar to activate the next stage. And the drogue emerges, slowing us down. Maybe slowing us down? Or at least making us not go quite as fast? I don't know. Jebediah seems to be pretty happy about the situation. So we're just coming down like normal. Normally, if you've seen my previous episodes, I'll fast forward through all this stuff, but right now, since it's kind of our first one, we're going to take it slow. And the parachute deploys fully at 1,000 feet, whipping the craft around, applying a little bit of G-forces, and we are now spinning down towards the water, crossing 250 meters and descending at just under 10 meters per second. We can take a look inside the craft so we can see all of our instruments that we have here. We've got some indicator lights, the 8-ball, a ground radar ground radar altitude, as well as an altimeter, and our vertical speed indicator. So those are all things that we have. We can get out of there by tapping C again. Now I can't take another crew report because I already have one, and I haven't been able to get out and clean the existing crew report, so we just have to wait. And we splash down. Craft falls over. Everything seems hunky-dory. Now that we're in the water safely, let's get our couple of last experiments here. We can observe the mystery goo here, and it says, "Mystery goo observation from Kerbal's water."
"The goo escapes into the water."
Uh-oh. Well, there goes that experiment. And we can, since our craft is in a stable position here, we can EVA. Grab another EVA report from Kerbal's water.
"I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here, was it?"
That gets us a little bit more science. And once again, we can take this data and store this data and then reboard, which means all the data is once again in the storage compartment, and we can therefore take another crew report. Crew report from Kerbal's water.
"You record the crew's assessment of the situation."
Go ahead and keep that experiment, and then we are ready to recover the vessel. The recover the vessel button is up here, and there we have it. We have successfully done some Kerbal space programming, where we got a crew report from Kerbal's water, EVA report while flying over Kerbal shores, crew report from the launch pad, a crew report while flying over Kerbal shores, an EVA report from Kerbal's water, a mystery goo observation from the launch pad, a mystery goo observation while flying at Kerbal, and a mystery goo observation from Kerbal's water. And we also recovered a vessel that survived flight. If we go ahead and go next, we get some money back for some parts. And our crew gained some experience. And then we have some messages here that we can take a look at. So we completed a contract to gather our scientific data. Congratulations, we got paid. And we launched our first vessel, got paid for that contract. And we have a whole bunch of world's first milestones. These are sort of automatic rewards you get along the way for doing stuff like launching a vessel, reaching altitude and speed records, splashing down in the ocean, returning, and all that kind of stuff. So we got tons of cash now. Now we have gathered this resource called Science, and it's spelled SCIENCE exclamation point. It may or may not be capitalized, but anyway, we have it, and we want to spend it, because this is how we get more parts to get more capable craft. So, we then head in here and we spend some science points on basic rocketry, which will give us some more rocket parts. Got those going, and in my options, I set it up. We have to purchase these parts for 5,900 funds. We're going to grab Engineering 101 for 5 science and get those parts as well. Now we have 44 science remaining, which is enough for any 2 of these nodes. I am thinking general rocketry. General rocketry and survivability. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get those ones. Spending some of our funds to retrieve those. Now we're left with 9.2 science, which unfortunately is not enough to get anything else. So normally in my Let's Plays, we'll do one mission or a part of a mission, because they can get kind of long. But since we're just starting off, we'll have our first episode be an extended play and do a few missions. Now, having researched some new parts, it's time to go find ourselves some new contracts. With the parts unlocked and some reputation gained, we have a whole bunch of new contracts available. I didn't buy the general rocketry parts. I'm getting comments already on how terrible I am at the game. And he is correct. Simon McBride has joined the channel and is smart as, well, smarter than me. Maybe he's as smart as Gene Kerman. Purchase 3 parts. Make sure I purchased all these other parts. Okay, I have all the parts. Good deal. Don't forget to purchase the parts. If you have that option unlocked, it would be awkward. Mission control. Let's find ourselves a new set of missions. They want us, so here's a focused observational surveys. Those are kind of you fly over a place and do a crew report while you're there. Test some engines while landed. Test the flea solid fuel booster at the launch site. That's an easy enough mission to do. Heck, we do that one. So we'll grab that. And we also want to make an attempt at escaping the atmosphere. So, we have our 2 maximum contracts. Do I want to upgrade anything yet? No. I'm going to get this upgrade soon enough, and I will explain why later. So, again, we're just focusing on the 3 buildings we need. Or the 4 buildings now, because we have to go to the research center. So, here is Splat. Oh yeah, hey, those of you who are watching live, in the comments, I will take suggestions for ship names. So we have Splat, and we're going to completely redesign him. My Outlook settings are out of date. Shut up. I know, I don't care. Back to what I was doing. Okay, let's pull up these contracts. We need to test the flea solid booster, and it needs to be on Kerbal at the launch site. That's easily enough to do because we have some new parts now. So we have a whole bunch of new parts. We have fuel tanks. We have a whole bunch of new engines. We have this stack decoupler, which makes multi-stage rocketry possible. We have a heat shield now, which makes re-entry easier. So we can now begin sort of standardizing our re-entry vehicle with something like that. Although we don't need a heat shield right now, we can just put the stack decoupler on. Now let's make something that goes up. We don't have EVA yet. So I need to do this, and in order to change the center of mass enough for this to be stable coming down, we need one of these. Or, I'm sorry, one of these. Like so. More science, and we'll put 2 of these goo canisters on down here. Should we put them down there, or should we put them up here? I'm going to try to put them up here. Hopefully they will increase the amount of drag on this side of the center of gravity to help keep this rocket ship stable coming down. Okay, so we have a new scientific experiment which we can run to gather some new science. But in order to do that, we need to get this rocket going up. So one fuel tank, one engine. I'm not actually putting a lot on here because for reasons. Our overall goal is to escape the atmosphere. And that's the stage that's going to do it. But we have a contract to test the Flea solid rocket booster. So we're going to go ahead and thrust them in this to, say, 50%. We'll try 50. Splat. Splash. There we go. Maybe we'll see space. Possibly even return from space reasonably whole. So I'm adding a stage that I wouldn't normally add, but we have a contract to do it. So we're going to go ahead and toss a Flea solid rocket booster right there. And once again, we'll throw some aerodynamics on this thing to help keep it nice and stable while it's going up. I will add even more aerodynamics. Let's put 6 of them on there. Yeah. And I am getting, so this little guy right here is really helpful. It's the engineer's report. And it tells me that I have a monopropellant container which is not used by any of my parts that are connected. Campbell Jackson has joined the channel. Hello, Campbell. So we're going to go ahead and ditch the monopropellant since we're not using it at all. Goodbye, monopropellant. We don't need you. We have a rocket ship named Splash, and its job is to go reach, hopefully, space, and then return safely. We'll see how it actually goes. Ooh, The T key activates the SAS, which is the stability something, the enhanced stability platform. Basically, it's Jebediah Kerman holding the stick, making the rocket fly as straight as possible. So, we're going to learn something called a gravity turn. And this is where we turn the rocket in such a way that gravity takes over and steers the rocket for us. So here we go. In. Launching. We've achieved that contract. When I get a little bit of speed, I'm going to start pushing the rocket over to one side. Like so. I have pushed it over too far. I can tell. This is going to end horribly. Oh. Nope, don't look. That's more my bad flying than anything. 50% might not be enough here. Let's go 65. Okay. SAS is on, and up we go with the Flea at full throttle. And we're going to go ahead and start pushing the rocket over. So I'm tapping the D key to get my rocket to tilt. Now that I have my rocket sort of pointing not vertical, hit T, hands off the keyboard. Here are my hands. They're off the keyboard. Gravity is doing the work of steering the rocket for me. Hopefully, we can get enough vertical speed here. As we ascend. We might not be, though. That's okay. That's part of what Kerbal Space Program is for, is experimenting. So, have we observed this while flying? Yes, we have. Oh, shoot, I forgot about that. Oh, well. We are screaming past the speed of sound. Unfortunately, we're flying entirely too horizontally for this to be particularly effective at getting us anywhere near space. So we're going to revert to launch and see if we can't maintain more up as opposed to more over. I think what needs to happen... Get both stages going simultaneously there. Now I want to push the rocket over just slightly. I don't want to go as far as I did last time. That should do. Turn the SAS off, and we're going to let the rocket motor do its thing of taking care of the up. Got about 1.5 Gs of acceleration. Maybe if I set the thruster to 75%, we'd have a better thrust-to-rate ratio, but it seems to be doing fine. As it burns its fuel, we gain some acceleration. Campbell Jackson, thanks for the subscription. Doing a reasonably good job of going up. Once again, breaking through the sound barrier. And now comes the part where I need to turn SAS back on, because we're going to be losing our fins. Oh, this rocket is hard to control. So I'm in the thick part of the atmosphere and I don't have any fins on this thing. In fact, you can see us heating up as we go faster and faster. However, we're doing an excellent job of reaching space. Congratulations, we're over 70 kilometers at the highest point of our trajectory, which means
space!
At least in a little while. We'll watch the map to make sure that's staying up there as we ascend out of the atmosphere. Now that we're higher than we've been before, we can get some new data. So here is a crew report from Kerbin's upper atmosphere.
You record your crew's assessment of the situation.
And we can observe the mystery goo. Observation of Kerbin's upper atmosphere.
The goo seems to be getting very cold now.
And we will wait until we reach space for the last part of our mission. Which is going to take a little bit. So, names. Names for rocket ships. I have Splat, and I have Splash so far. Let's take a look at this gorgeous scenery. It's simplistic, but nice. There it is, space. Ooh, there's the mun. There's the sun. Okay, we are at a point now where we're going largely horizontally, so I'm going to go ahead and point myself maybe a little bit above the horizon, like so. Z key goes full throttle, and we're going to burn off the rest of this fuel just to really get us moving. There we are. We've extended our orbit as far as we're going to go, so we are now in space. Jebediah is experiencing 0 Gs right now, and we can do some science. We got a crew report from the upper atmosphere, so we can't get a crew report of this right now, because otherwise we'll have to reset it. That's okay. We'll observe the materials bay in space. Materials study while in space near Kerbin.
The microgravity has greatly affected the growth of crystalline structures. Loose objects are also flying around the bay in a very messy but fascinating way.
We'll keep that experiment for sure. And we will also observe the mystery goo. Mystery goo observation while in space near Kerbin.
The goo seems to have clumped into a sphere. It also appears to have become brittle.
Keep that experiment. So it looks like we are in the process of coming down. Coming down with a vengeance, in fact. And we are now entering the atmosphere. So we're going to go ahead and use some power to get ourselves facing this little guy here, which means this little marker. This is the retrograde marker. It's basically the nose pointing away from which way we're heading marker. Lock that in, and we need to stage off this engine because it's going to be dead weight. Goodbye, engine. Now, quick saving. With any luck at all, this craft is now balanced enough to actually maintain its own attitude coming into the atmosphere. If it's not, we might be in trouble. I can actually have Jeb help. Because we are plunging relatively quickly. As we get into further missions, I'll be fast forwarding through much more of this part, but you know, these first ones we kind of want to experience them. Heat is beginning to build up as we plummet into the atmosphere. Now our marker is switched over to surface mode. If we take a look from inside the cockpit, we can actually see the flame, the firing flame ball. And watch as our altitude plummets. But the heat shield is doing its job. I think that bottom mass really helped us stay stable. All we need to do is keep it there as we enter the atmosphere here. Waiting for this to turn not red so we can deploy the parachute. Any moment now. Orange, bingo. Parachute deployed. Jeb seems relatively happy, and I have a suggestion from Simon McBride, who has joined the channel. Oh, he joined the channel before. I'm just bad at reading comments. But he says, Pocket Rocket. That's a fine name for a rocket ship. And we are in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere. On the map, we have flown quite a ways away from our space center over here. Coming down quite peacefully. Again, we take a look at our instrumentation, our ground radar showing how close we are to the ground. Our descent speed just shy of 7 meters per second. And indeed, we can watch this. Watch this needle right here go to 0. As soon as we touch down on water. And any moment now, splash. Bingo. Our 8-ball confirms that we've rolled over and are laying on our side. And there we have it. Now we don't have any more science to grab here, so we're going to go ahead and recover. And reap our rewards. Fireball XL 1.1. Hey, that's a really good one for maybe our first orbital ship. So we gained science for our crew report from Kerbin's upper atmosphere, materials study while in space near Kerbin, mystery crew observation from Kerbin's upper atmosphere, a mystery crew observation while in space near Kerbin, and recovery of a vessel after a suborbital flight. We now have 96 science to spend and 288,000 funds, so we are moving right along. Ooh, this helmet is not the most comfortable thing in the world. Should put some foam inside to make it more comfy. Distribute the weight around my head better. Okay. Science to spend. So we have enough, if I really wanted to, get 2 more advanced nodes. It would give us more science and some other stuff, as well as advanced rocketry. And here's general construction. Well, I know I want this one. And we'll go ahead and purchase those parts so we have them all. Now the question is, do I spend 45 science on basic science and then pick this up later? Yeah, I think so. And purchase those parts for 10,000 funds. Leave the facility. We have a whole bunch of messages now. Holy crap. Okay, we completed the contract.
What is it like up there? We hope it's fun because you're coming back very soon.
Test complete. We got some good data, and we broke a whole bunch of records. Speed records, altitude records, distance records. We reached space. We landed. Completed another contract. Sweet. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and quick save. More contracts. The crowning achievement at this point will be to orbit Kerbal. Focused observational survey. Haul a parachute up into flight. Is that the parachute that we already have? It's the Mark 16 parachute, right? Oops. Utility. Mark 16 parachute. So there's a mission to haul a parachute that we already own into space. Mission control. There it is. Basically, all we need to do is take it with us, and we get 20,000 bucks, which we're automatically going to be doing anyway. Ferry tourists. Those are kind of fun. All right, we are going to haul a parachute into flight, as well as orbit Kerbal. Those are our two goals now for mission number 3. We'll go ahead and use Pocket Rocket. Well, nah, Fireball. Fireball's good. Fireball's a great name. Okay. One thing I do want to do, we've amassed enough wealth now that I want to make doing a certain thing a lot easier. So at the astronaut complex, we're going to go ahead and upgrade this. What this does is it gives us more active Kerbals that we can use for our missions. That's fine. And Kerbals can perform extravehicular activity at any point. They don't need to be landed in order to do that. And EVA Kerbals can also plant flags. So this is going to make it possible for our Kerbal to actually get out of the spacecraft while in space and give us an EVA report, which is worth a fair bit of science. So, Fireball XL 1.1. Reaching orbit means going fast. Enter the Fireball. Okay, now, this rocket design is going to be quite different from what we've had before. I no longer have any new situations to observe mystery goo in, so I'm not going to worry about that. But what I will do is throw the entire thing away. Okay, we have this thing's going to be coming down all by itself from now on. And because it's the Fireball, we will get into the habit of packing a heat shield with it at all times. We don't need it for typical orbital flights around Kerbal, but it's a good idea to have as we go further and further away. So this is Fireball. Now we can start attaching stuff to really make this thing go. We have an FLT 400 fuel tank, along with the Terrier liquid fuel engine. This is a highly efficient engine, so if you start looking at the stats for these things, you start noticing that the, what is it? ISP rating That's a measure of the engine's efficiency. The higher the ISP, the more efficient it is at gaining speed out of fuel. So this one has an ISP of 320 in space, which is the vacuum rating. And this one has a 345 vacuum ISP, but it has a terrible, terrible atmospheric ISP. Which basically means we need to get this ship into space, like proper space, before we use that engine. In fact, I know what I can do. Science, 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 science. Okay. We'll bring this. We'll grab... We're going to be taking a bunch of thermometer readings. Fuel tanks. Grab one of these. Stick it right there. Engines. Terrier engine. This is our sort of orbital maneuvering vehicle. Larger fuel tank. Reliant engine. This is a nice little booster stage here. Like atmospheric booster stage. And then we have another one of these. A thumper. Mass is good. Our height is good. Okay. Things are looking great so far as getting this thing into orbit. So here's our very tall rocket so far. And we do need some serious aerodynamic stability going on down here to help keep this thing flying straight and level. We'll set this thrust to, say, 75%. Yeah, we'll try 100. See how that goes. Fireball XL 1.1 is looking pretty good. This might just reach orbit. Now I could ensure that it reaches orbit by doing something. Oh, I don't have radial things. Okay. Now, I promised something about thermometers. Let's grab, see here, we have landed. We have landed. We have flying, high atmosphere, and space. That is 4 thermometers that I want to take with me for the purpose of measuring things. And now that I have EVA available, I can actually grab this data. So we'll go into space, we'll get ourselves into orbit or whatever we're doing. We'll have our guy get out of the spaceship, grab the scientific experiments from these things, store them back in the spaceship, and then we only need to actually recover this little bit, which is much more stable and much easier to do. So, save that. Launch. And this will be the last mission of our introductory episode into Kerbal Space Program. And we'll get set for mission number 2. So without much fanfare... Oh, itchy. Yep, that's pretty good. 1 point something G's. Get up to about 50 meters per second and push the rocket over. Tip, tip, tip. As much as it'll let me. Which is to say, not much. Oh shoot, I forgot. Forgot some very important things. First things first. Observe the materials bay.
The materials show little signs of change, though one of the samples appears to be judging you silently.
So this is just a landed one. And we'll get our temperature here. Log temperature.
The temperature readings are quite literally nominal.
Lovely. This game is hilarious. Oh, your phone, get it back in there. Okay, now let's launch. I'm going to go ahead and push over earlier than I did before. Okay. Now, atmospheric drag is acting on the fins, causing me to be a little bit more stable. Visor, get out of my way. We can now observe, boop, this while flying over Kerbal shores. And we are ready to stage off in just a moment. Boom. Throttle back a little bit. Oh no, flipping. It was bad. I know how to solve that. How we solve that is by doing this. Put 3 fins right there. So these fins down here should be acting stronger than those fins. We'll see how that works. Again, log the temperature, observe the materials bay, SAS on with the D key, activate the rocket, and up we go. Push it over like so. Turn off SAS. And atmospheric forces are doing their job of keeping things nice and stable. Perfect. Perfect. This takes a couple of launch trials to get something right. Now that we're flying, 2 hot thermometer number 2. Soon we'll be staging off the solid rocket booster. Goodbye. Activate the next stage. Keep it about half throttle, I guess. We're still gaining a fair bit of speed here. So this is a booster stage meant to get us pretty much continue getting us up. I'll go ahead and throttle back. So the thing about a gravity turn is that gravity really does the job of controlling the rocket more than anything else. And the atmospheric drag on the fins. I'm not actually using any input forces. I'm not tapping the W key or the ASD keys or anything like that. I'm just letting the atmosphere working on these fins and the fact that rocket trajectories arc over to control how much pitch I have on this particular thing until we're out of high enough. So now that we're high enough where we've flipped over orbit mode, we're going to go ahead and aim directly this direction. This is the prograde marker, which means we are headed that direction. Whoa, whoa, X. We have quite a high orbit available to us. We still have power in this engine and power in that engine. So with any luck, we'll be able to actually get orbit done. Well, the haul is complete. Congratulations. No new records or anything to worry about. While we're here in the upper atmosphere, do some things really quick. Log this temperature. And get an EVA. EVA report. So this is an EVA report from Kerbal's upper atmosphere, which is worth a fair bit. And a crew report while in space near Kerbal. So we've officially reached space. Let's go ahead and get this last temperature log done. We're still climbing. We'll have a ways to go, so we can go ahead and have him EVA. Grab this EVA report in space. Oops. I want him to then take all this data and store it again. All right. We need to go ahead and get ourselves situated for burn. Full throttle. We are now aiming for orbit. Which means extending our flight path as much as possible. This stage might not be enough to do it. We might have been able to reach orbit if I hadn't gone so high. But that's okay. We're doing a pretty decent job of extending our apoapsis, though. I'll just keep burning unless I think it's going to be a problem. Oh, we're so close. Very nearly in orbit. The only reason it's not in orbit is because this periapsis, which is the lowest point in our orbit, the place closest to the center of mass, is in fact not above the atmosphere. Okay. We're still headed up, and we need to go ahead and recover all this data. So, we're going to activate our little backpack and do some flying. Collect that data? Yep, that's fine. Take that data. So just little tiny impulses here. Take this data. Using Shift, Control, WASD. Ah, down. Closer. Take this data. Only one more to go. We'll turn on our lights with the L key. Whoa, whoa. So my first upgrade at the Space Center tends to be the astronaut complex for this reason. Makes it possible for me to get all this data without having to bring back as much heavy science equipment. And that makes re-entry a whole lot easier. And grab, take all this data, and get on board. Holy crap, that's a mess. But we just stored a whole bunch of data and are free flying along here. We performed a spacewalk in orbit of Kerbal. Ostensibly it's in orbit, except for that it pokes itself down in the atmosphere. Now, having gotten all the data back in to close those doors. Can't use, we could log more temperatures and stuff, but why would we? Now that we're free falling, or free flying, we can go ahead and ditch that stage. Goodbye, rocket. And begin descending back into the atmosphere. And I'll go ahead and fast forward until we actually hit re-entry interface. So we're touching the atmosphere. Now you can see that the shape of this thing is actually quite stable, especially with this extra mass at the bottom of the heat shield. So I don't need to do anything. It'll float back into the atmosphere on its own. It's kind of hard to see right now because it's dark. But you can see it heating up, getting ready to come down. There we go. We are now in pretty much full-blown, quite nearly orbital re-entry here. And we can see our ablator heat shield being slowly burned off. Let's go ahead and just fast forward all the way down here. And this shallow angle is one of the best ways to come in from anything, basically. I try to aim for about... What blew up? Oh yeah, my rocket. Oops. So atmosphere is applying a lot of braking power, creating a lot of heat from compression against the thermal heat shield. And at about 30 kilometers, as we continue to slow down, you can hear the explosions from our booster stage. "15 kilometers, so we're getting into regular atmosphere. 10 kilometers. Now we're just waiting to deploy our parachute, which we can do now. Our parachute will open up at 1,000 meters above ground level, which could be now since we're over the mountains. And we're making a mountain landing. But we might be able to get some more data here. Especially since we can, well, we could plant a flag, but I'm not going to plant a flag. And 6.1 meters, which is generally a nice touchdown. Let's go ahead and get a crew report, which is, this is the Kerbal Highlands. Grab an EVA. Get an EVA report here. Store that experiment. Awkward. There we go, we're on the ladder. And on we go. Recover the vessel, and we're all set. So we've gained 83 science from our various experiments that we did there. And 330 funds from the recovered parts. Jebeditor Kerman hasn't gained any new experience, so we'll probably switch pilots. We'll probably get another pilot some experience. I know we have Valentina on deck ready to go. So, the last thing we will do in any of our episodes is spend all of our science. Once again, we have these $45 nodes. But I know we need stability. I don't have enough for any of the 90 science nodes. So we'll get stability. And then I have enough for one more. General construction. This would allow passengers. We could start working on some aviation. Flight control. Let's grab aviation. Yeah. Our science is spent. We only have 20 science remaining, so therefore we'll have to get more science along the way. That is going to be it for episode number 1, an extended play, quite an extended play, almost an hour long, of Kerbal Space Program version 1.1. Just came out yesterday as of the recording of this. If you're sticking around, if you're here live, stick around. There's more episodes to come. If you're watching the episodes, thanks for tuning in. Be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share the video. I really appreciate you guys interacting with me, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.